This PowerPoint will explain how narration is a tool for all kinds of writing. Narration is another way to say recounting events. What is narration? Exactly. Well, it relates a series of events, real or imaginary. In fiction, they would be imaginary events and characters, but for our purposes in Cap English 101, we're only going to write about real events and real people. It also has an organized set of sequences so that the story is easy to follow. The story should also make a point, not just something funny, but something that is written for a reason. Narration provides human interest, entertainment, and sparks curiosity. Narration can also draw us closer to the storyteller and create a sense of shared history. Narration links people together and sometimes even teaches moral conduct. In college and in the workplace, there are examples of things that will use narration, and here are some. Let's say you've been asked to attend a court trial and describe what happened and what the proceedings illustrate about the judicial process. In that instance, you would be using narration. In a sociology course, you discuss the nature and types of authority figures in U.S. society. Describe situations in which you found yourself in conflict with an authority figure. In this situation, you would use narration. Or maybe, for your job in sales, you have frequent business travel and you have to report on each trip. You're expected to recount the meetings you attended, your contacts with current clients, and new sales leads. Again, you would use narration. What are the characteristics of a narrative? A narrative supports a thesis. A narrative makes a point. A narrative supports a thesis by telling readers about an event or a series of events. It might be to describe the significance of the event, or make an observation, or present new information. But whatever the point is what determines the details you select and the way you present them. Narratives convey that same kind of detail and action, like a camera lens that zooms in and makes readers feel as if they can see the details, experience the action, perhaps dialogue, physical description. All of this is recounting action. Narratives present conflict and create tension. A good narrative will effectively present a struggle, a question, or a problem. This will create tension and interest, and finally, that conflict will come to some sort of point of greatest tension or climax, and it will work towards a resolution. From other literature, you know that there are different kinds of conflict, different types. Here you'll see man, but of course we mean human. So there's man versus man, one person against another, that kind of conflict. There's man versus self, a person in conflict with him or herself. Man versus nature, like actual nature, outdoors, the weather, wind, water, etc. There's man versus society, sort of the constraints the society puts on a person. And there's even man versus supernatural, like ghosts and zombies, or technology. And in all of these instances, in a narrative, we express this kind of conflict to make the story more interesting, more insightful. Narratives sequence events. These events, in an order that's easy to follow, might be chronological, in time order that they happen. You might employ the technique of flashback, where you reference an event in the past. You might employ the technique of foreshadowing, referencing an event in the future. For the most part, when you first start narratives, true narratives, you're going to want to use chronological order. It's easier for you to write. It's easier for your audience to follow. Flashback and foreshadowing are pretty advanced techniques. Narratives also use dialogue. With dialogue, characters reveal a lot about themselves by what they say and how they say it. I'm sure you've heard that in your own home at some point. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. Often dialogue can dramatize the action. It makes it a little more vivid, and it also emphasizes the conflict. Good dialogue can reveal the personalities or motives of the people involved in the events. Here on these slides, you see characters used. When we say characters, we mean the people in the events. In a fictional story, we're used to hearing the word character, but when we talk even about true events, there are characters involved. And of course, good dialogue should resemble everyday speech, even if it isn't always school appropriate. That's okay as long as it's true and it serves a purpose. Narratives are definitely told from a particular point of view, and two of them are represented here. Many use first-person point of view, and depending on the task, I is perfectly appropriate. It speaks directly to the reader, it expresses a personal tone, it expresses attitudes and feeling, and it gives the reader an opportunity to understand the author's interpretations and commentary on that particular set of events. Some people would rather use third-person point of view, but there are also tasks where that is more appropriate. So in that case, there's an unknown storyteller that describes what happens from outside to the key participants. It allows the author of that piece to convey the inner thoughts and feelings of other people, and it provides a more distance and a broader perspective on the events and their significance. Now, when you're choosing a topic, you want to think of something, of course, that's true, and something that has all the characteristics just described, a point, some tension, etc. So perhaps you might describe the events around an experience that caused you to learn something about yourself, or an incident that revealed the true character of someone you knew. Maybe you might even want to write about an experience that helped you discover a principle to live by. Another good one is an experience that explains the personal significance of a particular object. For years, my father kept a silver dollar in his pocket. Every morning he would put it in his pocket and he carried it around with him all day, sort of lucky charm. And at any given point during the day, he would reach into his pocket and he might rub that silver dollar between his fingers, his thumb and forefinger. And he had done that for so many years, I can't even remember, my whole life practically, that the silver dollar was smooth. He had rubbed the face off the front and the writing off the back. And so when he died a few years ago, that was one of the objects that I asked my mother if I could keep, was the silver dollar that he carried in his pocket. An experience that explains the significance of that might make an excellent narrative. Another one might be an incident that's become family legend, and we have enough of those in all our families that might be a good one. Or maybe even an incident that's allowed you to develop an appreciation or awareness of something or someone. No matter what, though, remember that a narrative tells a story.